Hey everyone, it's Deja from CrochetEverAfter.com. Today we're going to make some appliques. If you've ever seen any of my applique videos, you know that this is the basic intro to all of them. So you can click the link that's popping up to go straight to the beginning of the tutorial. Otherwise, I'm going to talk about what you can do with appliques, how to attach them, how to make them different sizes, what kind of yarn to use, and also why it's a really good idea to learn how to read looking for the word, reading charts, how to read charts. So appliques are a great fun quick crochet project, and they can help you learn new stitches and how to interpret written patterns because they stick a lot of different stitches into a very small project. Now, if you've ever made appliques before, you know that you can use them in a variety of ways. You can stick them on clothes, on blankets, on hats, headbands, shoes, scrapbooks. You can do just about anything with these. They are, the ones that I've written up for you are just about the perfect size to go on anything, but you can change their size. I use Knit Picks Brava worsted weight yarn, which is like a medium weight yarn or a number 4 in the yarn standards, and it's perfect size for most things, but if you want to make it bigger, you can get a bulky size yarn and a bigger hook and make them a lot bigger. Or get lace weight yarn and make them really small, and that'd be perfect for scrapbooks or anything that you want to make really tiny embellishments for. So you can change the size fairly easily. Now for the yarn, I told you I use Knit Picks Brava. It's a 100% acrylic yarn. You can find it on knitpicks.com, but you can use just about any kind of yarn you want. Just make sure that where you're putting it, you're picking a good yarn. So if you're putting it on clothes, like a pair of jeans that are going to get washed a lot, acrylic's a good way to go because usually you can wash and dry it very easily. You don't want to pick a 100% wool because you're going to felt it the first time you wash it. Now if you want a felted applique, that's perfectly fine too, because a lot of these will look great felted up, and I'll even show you some as we go. Now, to attach them to your projects, depending on what you're putting it on, you're going to use different kinds of methods to attach. So if you're putting a crochet flower on a beanie, you can just use yarn, of course a crochet beanie. If you're using a knit beanie or a material type, you might want to use a needle and thread or a sewing machine. Same goes with clothes, just use needle and thread to put it on. However, if you're putting it in a scrapbook or on a headband, you might want to use glue. So hot glue maybe for the headband, and then something that's paper friendly for your scrapbook. It's totally going to depend on where you want to put it, but you'll figure out what's the easiest way for you to attach it. Now for your actual charts, why it's a good idea to learn how to read these. As I go through the tutorials, I'm going to show you, well, I'm going to say the written part of the pattern, but I'm also going to show you the chart for the pattern. And that way, as you go, you're going to get familiar with the universal symbols that we use for crochet. And you'll see how to read a chart, how to kind of decipher all of the jumbled symbols that are all over the place. It's going to really help you so that if you want to make a pattern maybe from Japan and you don't read Japanese, like I don't, you can look at the stitch chart and easily make that pattern because you know all of the symbols already. So charts are a great tool when you want to make a pattern that isn't in a language that you know how to read. Now let's go grab some yarn and we're going to get started right now. We're going to make this cute little star applique using Knit Picks Brava worsted yarn and a 5mm USH hook. So let's grab the chart and let's get started. Okay, so to begin our star chart, or a star, we look at our chart and check out what it's telling us. Now, we can tell from looking at the star that it's worked in the round, but if you weren't sure and you're just looking at a written pattern, you can check out your chart to see what it is. So if it's like a mystery crochet along and you're not sure what you're making, your chart can really tell you just by looking at it. You can see that we have groups of the same kind of stitches. Even if you don't know what these stitches are, you can see that it's making a pattern. You can kind of see the star already laid out for us. So when we look at it, we can see that we have round markers. We have a round 1 and a round 2. And that tells us where to start. So we know it's also worked in the round because we're working from the center out. When we work in the round, we always go counterclockwise. So usually you'll see it kind of goes off to the right as you read a stitch chart. So you're going to start up above and look at the symbols that it gives you. You see this little spiral circle, that's actually a stitch symbol, and if you're not sure what it is or you haven't memorized it yet, look at your stitch legend. It'll tell you that it's an adjustable ring. I also call that the magic adjustable loop. So what do you do with your magic adjustable loop or adjustable ring? Well, look at your round 1. Everything in black is part of round 1. Everything that's in blue is part of round 2, so ignore the blue and just look at the black. We have these X's, or crosses, they use them interchangeably. That stitch, our stitch legend tells us it's a single crochet. So depending on who's making the pattern, you'll either see an X or a cross, but they're both single crochets. So how many X's do I have? I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that means I'm going to do 5 single crochets into my magic adjustable loop. And then I have this black dot here. That black dot is also a stitch. It's a slip stitch. So after I make my 5 single crochets, I'm going to slip stitch it closed. So let's start with this round 1, and then we'll look at round 2, because that's got a lot more different kind of stitches. So I'm going to begin my magic adjustable ring, loop, whatever you want to call it. I always like to slip stitch when I start it, just to kind of anchor it closed. Everything still moves nice and easy. I'm going to chain 1. You usually don't have to if you don't want to, but I like to put that extra height just to make sure all my stitches are the same height, and it's a little bit easier to join once you pull your ring closed, because that first one's not all squished down and hard to see. So I've done my 5 single crochets. I'm going to pull on my tail and close up my loop. And like I say, if it's hard to see where to put your hook to join your round, just count backwards from the stitches you made. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I still do this pretty much every time I make a magic adjustable loop, just to make sure that I'm not putting it in the wrong spot. So I'm doing that slip stitch that my chart showed me, and now I'm going to pull up my second round, my second and final round. And if you see, where our slip stitch is the end of round 1, and for most patterns, round 2 is going to begin right from where you ended round 1. Sometimes it won't. If you're changing color, then you might have to move somewhere to join your color, but it should put the round marker where you should start. So my round marker is here, so that tells me that I start right to the left of it, and I'm making a chain 3. And that's going to count as a double crochet. And if you see, we have a pattern. We're doing, in each of our stitches below, we're doing a group of 3 stitches. Technically 4, because we have a slip stitch there. The reason I know it's all going in this one stitch is because they're fanning out from that stitch. So I'm doing a chain 3, and then I have these 2 stitches. They are slightly different. One has 2 slashes and one has 1 slash. If I look at my pattern, or my legend, I see that a 2 slash means a treble crochet, and a 1 slash means a double crochet. You can also think about this when you yarn over. You yarn over twice to make a treble crochet, you yarn over once to make a double crochet. That can help you remember. And then I'm also going to show you that when I make those stitches, there's the actual look of the stitch kind of matches that stitch. So first let's just do our chain 3, our treble, and our double all in that first stitch. Let's go 1, 2, 3, then yarn over twice for a treble, go back into that same stitch that we slip stitched, and then I have a double crochet for the next one. So let me give you a close-up of these so you can see. When you look at the treble crochet, you can actually see 2 wraps. going around the center. The yellow is a little hard to see, but when you actually work these up, look at your stitches, you'll see two little stripes across the center of that stitch. On a double crochet, there's just one stripe across. So either the yarn overs or those are what the basis of these symbols are for. I'm not absolutely sure, but that's what I am sticking with because that's what I've noticed as I make these. Now we have this little slip stitch. It's in blue because the round 2's in blue. It doesn't change the stitch. It's still a slip stitch. And it's showing me that I'm going to do it in that same stitch. So this is bringing the point of my star back down a little. So I'm going to reach back into that same stitch and slip stitch it. That kind of rounds out my star. Now my next stitch is the exact same as my last, and you'll see that all of them are the same. I'm chaining 3, I'm doing a treble, a double, and a slip stitch. If these were different stitches and it's getting a little confusing which way to go, just remember you're always working from right to left. So turn your chart as you go. You can just keep turning it and putting the ones that you're supposed to do up on top so it's a little easier to read. But we're just going to do those same 4 stitches in each stitch as we go. So I'm going to do another chain 3 and a treble into that next stitch, because the chain 3 doesn't actually go anywhere, so you have to remember go into the next stitch with that treble. Then I've got the double, and then I've got the slip stitch. So I'm going to do that 3 more times to finish off my star. Okay, I'm just finishing up this last point of my star, and after I slip stitch into that last spot, you'll see that was this one, so I can just turn my work if I need to. That last slip stitch was the last stitch. I don't have any other kind of slip stitches anywhere. So once I slip stitch, which I just did, I can fasten off. So I'm just going to pull my chain nice and long to fasten off. And then once I fasten off, you can make your tails as long as you want, because if you want to sew your star onto whatever you're putting it on with the yarn, you can make your tails nice and long so you don't have to rethread anything. Or you can make them just long enough to weave in your ends. So we'll just pretend I'm weaving in my ends. And now our star is complete. So if you have any questions about reading the charts or the star, just leave them below. But thank you for watching.